You may have never heard of the Anakim, a mysterious tribe mentioned in sacred scriptures, a lineage of giants who, millennia ago, roamed the lands of Canaan and Mesopotamia. These enigmatic beings are cited by ancient commentators and historians, considered one of the most legendary tribes of the ancient Near East, surrounded by myths of power, immense stature, and celestial origin. In this video, we will explore who the Anakim were, their origins, their stories, and the hidden secrets that have survived through the ages. Prepare to dive into one of the most intriguing chapters of ancient history. The name Anak appears several times in the Old Testament, and in some biblical translations, it is rendered as Enoch, although the oldest and most accurate form is Anak. In Phoenician and Archaic Hebrew, the word Anak means necklace or ornament for the neck, a symbol of distinction, power, or lineage. However, the roots of this word go much deeper. The term Anak did not originate in Hebrew or Phoenician. It is an echo from an even older tongue, in Sumerian, the language of the first civilizations of Mesopotamia. Anak corresponds to the term Anaki, which literally carried the meaning the descendants from above, or those who came from heaven. Over time, this word traveled through the ages, from Sumerian to Akkadian, the language spoken in Ur of the Chaldees, the very birthplace of Abraham, and later to ancient Aramaic, the language of the Israelites, until finally reaching Phoenician Hebrew. Phoenician, in turn, was a northwest Semitic language spoken by a people of sailors and merchants who inhabited the coasts of the Levant, present-day Lebanon, and parts of Syria and Israel. It was this people who created one of the most ancient and influential alphabets of humanity, the foundation of later systems such as Greek and later on, Latin, which we still use today. Their writing system consisted of 22 consonants with no explicit vowels, similar to early Hebrew, and it carried the record of one of the most sophisticated civilizations of its time. The meaning of Anak, in its most primitive form, both in Sumerian and Akkadian, can be translated as the sons of those who fell from heaven, and thus they are called in the scriptures the sons of Anak. The expression, therefore, holds the same sense. Descendants of those who descended from heaven, beings whose origins seem to transcend the limits of the human world. During the Israelite conquest of Canaan, one of the most mysterious and grand chapters of the Old Testament, the name Anak emerges from the pages of Scripture as the ancestor of a tribe that seemed to belong to another age. The Anakim, his descendants, were known for their colossal stature, their almost superhuman strength, and for a countenance that, according to the ancients, bore something otherworldly. It was said their eyes reflected the brilliance of the stars, and that their voices, when echoing through the valleys of Canaan, made the ground tremble. These giants, according to sacred accounts, were a distant echo of an age when the divine and the earthly still intertwined, an age before the flood, when celestial beings, called in ancient traditions the Watchers, descended to earth, and took human wives, generating a hybrid race of warriors and titans. This forbidden lineage was nearly wiped out by the purifying waters of the flood. Yet, fragments of it survived, and among those remnants were the sons of Anak. Deuteronomy 2:10 mentions that the Anakim were related to the Rephaim, an even older and more mysterious lineage described as a people of great stature and strength. Inhabitants of ancient cities such as Bashan and Ashtaroth, regions later associated with Og, king of Bashan, the last of the giants mentioned in Scripture. These beings were so formidable that ordinary warriors trembled at the mere mention of their name. When Moses sent 12 spies to explore the Promised Land, the reports that returned were beyond imagination. 10 of them confessed before the whole assembly that they had seen men of impossible size, beings whose height defied human logic. Some scholars estimate that, according to ancient measurements, an Anakite could reach between 13 and 15 feet tall, over 4 meters, and that they wielded spears as large as tree trunks. Their armor was forged from bronze and iron, so heavy that an entire army would be needed to move it. The spies said, "There we saw the descendants of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers." Fear swept through the camp. The idea of facing creatures who seemed like fallen gods paralyzed the hearts of many Israelites. But Caleb and Joshua, moved by a faith that transcended reason, stood against despair. They did not deny the reality of the giants, but affirmed that, with the God of Israel, even the highest mountains could be brought down. "The Lord is with us," said Caleb. "Do not be afraid of them." That phrase would become legendary, the memory of a moment when faith faced the impossible. From then on, the Anakim came to represent for the Hebrews more than mere enemies. They became the living symbol of the forces that defy divine purpose, the lingering shadows of the ancient celestial rebellion that still echoed upon the earth. In the books of Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges, the Anakim reappear as remnants of an earlier age, survivors of a time when the earth still bore the scars of the intervention of the sons of God. Their cities were said to be fortified with colossal stones, their thrones carved from blocks so massive that no human could have moved them. Hebron, one of the oldest cities in the world, was their main bastion. Its ancient name, Kiriath-arba, meant City of Arba, referring to the father of Anak and the most powerful of the Anakim. Arba was considered the progenitor of this race of giants. Joshua 15:13 says, "Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim." This suggests he was not only a military leader, but also a figure of almost divine reverence. Under the command of Joshua, the Israelite warriors advanced through Canaan, and one of their greatest challenges was to take Hebron. The Bible narrates that Caleb, who 45 years earlier had trusted in the promise, claimed the right to conquer the city of giants. He led the charge, and after a fierce battle, the Anakim were expelled from Hebron. Joshua 11:21-22 recounts how Joshua cut off the Anakim from the mountains, from Hebron, from Dobir, from Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua devoted them to destruction with their cities. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel. They remained only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod. These 3 cities, Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, were part of the Philistine Pentapolis, a confederation of 5 city-states on the coast of Canaan. It was here that the last descendants of the Anakim took refuge, mixing with the local Philistine population. This is where the story of the Anakim connects with another famous giant from Scripture, Goliath of Gath. According to the first book of Samuel, Goliath was a Philistine champion from Gath, one of the last strongholds of the Anakim. His description is strikingly similar to the ancient reports of the Anakim, a man of immense stature, clad in heavy bronze armor, and wielding a spear like a weaver's beam. Many scholars believe that Goliath was one of the last pure-blooded descendants of the Anakim, a final remnant of that ancient lineage of giants. His defeat at the hands of the young shepherd David was not just a military victory, it was a symbolic act. It represented the final triumph of faith over physical might, the victory of the human spirit, guided by divine will, over the last vestiges of a pre-human, titanic age. After the time of David, the direct mentions of the Anakim and other giants become increasingly rare in the biblical text. It seems their lineage was either completely assimilated or finally extinguished. But their memory persisted, echoing in folklore, legends, and rabbinic traditions. The Talmud and Midrash ancient collections of Jewish teachings, contain numerous references to giants. They speak of Og, king of Bashan, as a giant who survived the flood by clinging to Noah's Ark, and whose bones were so large they could form a bridge over a river. These stories, though embellished with mythological elements, reflect a deep-seated cultural memory of a time when beings of extraordinary size walked the earth. But is there any archaeological evidence to support these ancient accounts? This is where the story becomes even more intriguing. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, reports of giant skeletons being discovered in the Middle East and other parts of the world surfaced. Newspapers from the era often published sensational stories about the unearthing of human remains measuring 8, 9, or even 12 feet tall. For instance, in 1895, a report from Ireland described the discovery of a fossilized giant in County Antrim, measuring over 12 feet in height. Similar finds were reported in France, Turkey, and across North America. While many of these reports were hoaxes or exaggerations, some have been harder to dismiss. Megalithic structures, like the ones at Baalbek in Lebanon, with stone blocks weighing up to 1,000 tons, raise questions about how ancient peoples could have moved and positioned them without advanced technology. Some theorists suggest these structures were built by or for beings of immense size and strength, beings like the Anakim. Of course, mainstream archaeology and science are skeptical. The accepted view is that giants in ancient texts were likely just unusually tall individuals or tribes, their size exaggerated over generations of oral storytelling. The Hebrew term Nephilim, often associated with giants, can also be translated as fallen ones, or those who cause others to fall, which could refer to powerful tyrants rather than literal giants. However, the consistency of these stories across different cultures and time periods is remarkable. From the Titans of Greek mythology to the Jotnar of Norse legends, the idea of a primeval race of giants is a universal theme in human history. The Anakim of the Bible are just one piece of this larger, global puzzle. They represent a fascinating intersection of history, mythology, and theology. Were they real biological giants, descendants of some forgotten branch of human evolution, or perhaps something not of this world? Or were they simply a powerful metaphor for the overwhelming challenges the Israelites faced, a symbol of the fears that must be conquered by faith? The truth may be lost to the sands of time, but the story of the Anakim continues to captivate us. It reminds us that our ancient past may hold more secrets than we can imagine. It challenges us to look at the sacred texts not just as religious documents, but as windows into a distant, mysterious world. A world where heaven and earth were closer, where legends walked the land, and where the line between myth and reality was blurred. The giants of Canaan may be gone, but their legacy endures, a timeless testament to the clash of worlds and the enduring power of human faith in the face of the impossible. What do you think? Were the Anakim real, or are they purely symbolic? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations of history's greatest mysteries. See you in the next one.